Perfection is a mirage, consistency is the path. Too many people spend their lives waiting for the perfect moment to begin the perfect plan, the perfect version of themselves. They wait and wait, believing that when everything is flawless, they will finally act. But perfection never comes. It is an illusion, a beautiful lie that traps the soul and silences the dreamer. The truth is, life does not reward those who wait for perfection. It rewards those who begin while they are imperfect. The greatest mistake you can make is thinking you need to be ready before you start. You will never feel fully ready, and that is because growth requires movement, not mastery. You don't become great by waiting for the perfect start. You become great by starting and refusing to stop. Every masterpiece was once a mess. Every expert was once a beginner. Every mountain climb began with one uncertain step. The ones who achieve greatness are not the ones who do everything perfectly. They are the ones who show up even when it's uncomfortable, even when they fail, even when they feel unprepared. The world is filled with people who had potential, but never moved because they were afraid of imperfection. They wanted everything to be in order before they tried, and in doing so, they let their dreams fade quietly in the name of perfection. The truth is, perfection is not a standard, it's a trap. It makes you believe that if you cannot do something flawlessly, you should not do it at all. But life does not require perfection, it requires persistence. Consistency is what transforms average into exceptional. It is what turns uncertainty into strength, hesitation into habit, and effort into excellence. When you commit to being consistent, even in small things, you begin to shift the foundation of your life. You stop chasing the illusion of a flawless moment and start creating real progress through daily effort. A single drop of water cannot shape a stone, but thousands of drops falling in rhythm can carve through mountains. The same is true for you. Every small act done consistently has the power to reshape your destiny. It may not look like much today, but the results of consistent effort compound quietly until one day they become undeniable. Perfection screams at you to do everything right, but consistency whispers that doing something is always better than doing nothing. The voice of perfection says, wait until it's ideal. The voice of consistency says, start where you are with what you have. And that is the voice you must follow, because while perfection asks for control, consistency asks for courage. You will stumble, you will make mistakes, you will question yourself, but that is how you grow. The person who never makes mistakes never moves forward. The person who embraces imperfection learns, adapts, and becomes stronger. You cannot sculpt a statue without first striking the stone, and you cannot build a life of purpose without first taking imperfect action. The most powerful people you admire are not perfect. They are relentless. They have failed more times than others have tried. They have fallen, doubted, broken, and rebuilt themselves again and again. What separates them from the rest is not their perfection, but their refusal to stop. They have learned that consistency is not about always getting it right, but about showing up no matter what goes wrong. That is where transformation happens. In the quiet, repetitive effort no one applauds. Every day you choose to show up, you strengthen your spirit. You are training your mind to trust you, to believe that you will not abandon your purpose even when it's hard. The pursuit of perfection feeds ego, but the pursuit of consistency builds character. When you seek perfection, you care about how things look. When you seek consistency, you care about who you become. One focuses on image, the other focuses on integrity, and life will always reward the one who focuses on substance. It's easy to chase perfection because it gives you an excuse not to begin. It lets you hide behind preparation. But consistency exposes you. It requires action. It asks you to get up even when you don't feel like it, to keep pushing even when no one is watching, to keep moving even when results are slow. That is where faith lives, not in the moments when everything is smooth, but in the moments when everything feels uncertain and you keep going anyway. The truth is, the path to mastery is paved with mistakes. You will never arrive at excellence without walking through imperfection. The key is to stop fearing it, to embrace it, to realize that imperfection is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Every failure reveals what needs to change. Every misstep sharpens your awareness. Every attempt, no matter how small, is a step closer to who you are meant to be. You don't need to do everything perfectly. You just need to do something consistently. Because consistency compounds. A small effort every day becomes unstoppable progress over time. Look around at the lives that inspire you. They are not built on flawless execution, but on endless repetition. Great musicians did not play the perfect note on the first try. Great writers did not write their masterpiece in one sitting. Great leaders did not rise without falling many times first. They all learned one truth: that perfection is overrated, but persistence is unbeatable. They chose to show up again and again, even when no one believed, even when progress was invisible, even when the world doubted them. And eventually, their consistency made them unstoppable. If you keep chasing perfection, you will spend your life editing your dreams instead of living them. You will always feel behind, never enough, never ready. But if you focus on consistency, life begins to flow. You stop judging yourself and start trusting yourself. You stop comparing your pace to others and start honoring your own progress. You begin to feel peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally moving forward. That is the secret to every kind of success. Not perfection, but presence, persistence, and patience. One day, when you look back, you'll realize that all the imperfect efforts you once doubted were the very steps that carried you to your destiny. Progress is built in small steps, not giant leaps. The world glorifies big moments, the breakthrough, the victory, the applause, but what it forgets is that every grand success was once invisible effort repeated quietly day after day. People look at the top of the mountain and forget the countless steps that were taken in silence to reach it. They admire the finished masterpiece, but never see the endless hours of imperfection behind it. Progress does not come from massive action done once, it comes from small, consistent actions done relentlessly. It's the gentle, steady push forward when no one is watching that shapes the future. Every person wants to move quickly, to reach success without struggle, to find shortcuts to greatness. But there are no shortcuts to real progress. The truth is, small steps done faithfully will take you farther than great leaps done occasionally. It's easy to run when the road is clear, but what builds strength is walking when the path is uncertain. Every small action you take builds a piece of momentum. Every repetition, every tiny improvement, adds another brick to the foundation of your dream. When you stay consistent, the small steps begin to multiply, and before you know it, you are standing in a place you once thought impossible. The tragedy is that most people give up too soon, because they cannot see how small efforts matter. They believe progress should be visible and immediate. They plant the seed today and expect the tree tomorrow. But life does not work that way. Growth takes time. It demands patience, persistence, and faith in the unseen. The seed must stay buried in the dark before it breaks through the soil. The same is true for you. You will toil. You will doubt. You will work without recognition. But beneath the surface, something powerful is forming. Roots of resilience, strength, and discipline. Those who give up never see the bloom, but those who stay consistent witness the miracle. Big leaps come from accumulated small steps. When you look at someone successful, you are not seeing a single moment of greatness. You are seeing the result of thousands of small decisions. Every early morning, every late night, every quiet sacrifice built their success. It's never about doing something massive once. It's about showing up every day, even when motivation fades, even when results seem distant. Progress hides in repetition. It lives in the little habits you build when no one applauds, in the discipline you choose when comfort calls. Each small effort is like a drop of water wearing down a stone. It may look insignificant at first, but over time it shapes the impossible. There will be days when you question whether it's worth it. You'll look around and see others moving faster, achieving more, and you'll wonder if your small steps even matter. But you must remember, every person's journey is different. What looks like speed in someone else's path might be the result of years of groundwork you never saw. Do not compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 20. The quiet progress you make today is preparing you for the breakthrough you will have tomorrow. Your small steps are building strength, clarity, and patience, qualities that will sustain you when success finally comes. Progress is not a straight line. Some days you move forward, other days you stumble, and sometimes you feel like you're standing still. But even standing still is part of the journey if you do not turn back. The key is not to quit. Every small action, no matter how imperfect, counts. Every time you get back up after falling, you are growing stronger than before. The mountain is climbed not by running, but by taking one step, then another, then another. Some steps will be painful, others will be joyful, but each one is necessary. The only way you fail is if you stop moving. Most people chase inspiration, but inspiration is unreliable. It comes and goes like the wind. The real secret is discipline, doing what you must do even when you don't feel like it. It is the power to take one more step, even when the last one exhausted you. That is how real progress is made. Small efforts build endurance. Endurance builds character. Character builds destiny. There is no magic in giant leaps. The magic is in persistence. Every small victory you create becomes proof to your mind that you are capable. And once your mind believes, your body follows. When you choose to move forward, no matter how small the step, you are already defeating fear. Fear thrives on inaction. It grows stronger when you wait, when you hesitate, when you convince yourself the task is too big. But when you take even the smallest step forward, fear loses its grip. You show yourself that progress is possible. That motion creates momentum. The smallest spark can light the largest fire if you keep feeding it. That's why you must never underestimate your tiny efforts. They are not meaningless. They are the foundation of transformation. It's easy to look back and think your progress is slow, but remember, time passes whether you act or not. 1 year of consistent small steps can change everything. If you read 10 pages a day, that's 650 pages in a year. If you save a little money daily, it becomes security tomorrow. If you improve one skill each day, soon you'll master it. Greatness isn't sudden, it's accumulated. Every day you practice consistency, you're laying bricks for a structure that will outlast temporary success. The ones who reach the summit are not those who sprint at the start, but those who pace themselves until the end. Patience is power. Consistency is strength. Faith in small steps is wisdom. You do not need to take giant leaps to change your life. You just need to keep moving one small, deliberate step at a time. Over time, those steps will take you further than you ever imagined. The day will come when you'll look back at the ground you've covered and realize that every slow, uncertain step you once doubted was part of something greater. You will see that it was never about how fast you moved. It was about never stopping. That is the quiet secret of all progress, the unseen truth that turns ordinary effort into extraordinary transformation. Failure is not the enemy, inconsistency is. You have been taught to fear failure, to avoid mistakes, to hide your imperfections. But failure is not what holds you back. It is your hesitation to try again that keeps you where you are. Every great story of success is written with chapters of failure, pain, and rejection. The people who rise are not those who never fall. They are the ones who refuse to stay down. Failure shapes character, sharpens focus, and builds the strength that comfort never could. Inconsistency, on the other hand, steals that growth from you. It makes you stop before your breakthrough. It convinces you that effort is wasted. It whispers that quitting is easier than trying again. Failure teaches, inconsistency erases the lesson. When you fail, the world does not end. Something begins. Each failure is feedback, a silent mentor showing you what does not work and guiding you closer to what will. It is not a punishment but a signal, a reminder that growth is happening. Failure is the soil in which wisdom grows. Those who avoid it remain fragile, forever afraid of the unknown. Those who face it become resilient, unshaken by setbacks. But inconsistency robs you of this gift. When you give up after a mistake, you stop the process of learning. You close the door before success has a chance to knock. The ones who win are not the ones who fail less, but the ones who keep going until failure has nothing left to teach them. Inconsistency is the quiet thief of dreams. It hides behind excuses. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm too tired. It's not the right time. It convinces you that stopping for a while won't matter, but every pause weakens your discipline. Every skipped effort breaks your rhythm. Momentum dies not because of failure, but because of the decision to stop trying. When you are consistent, failure becomes a stepping stone. When you are inconsistent, failure becomes a wall. Consistency keeps you moving through failure until it loses its power over you. The moment you stop fearing it, it can no longer control you. Think about how nature works. The sun rises every morning. The waves hit the shore without fail. The seasons change without delay. Nothing in nature is perfect, but everything is consistent. And because it is consistent, it thrives. The tree does not stop growing because of a storm. It bends, it adjusts, and it continues to reach for light. You are no different. You will face storms, you will face setbacks, but if you stay consistent, you will continue to grow. Failure might slow you, but inconsistency will stop you entirely. It is not the fall that breaks you, it is the decision not to rise. When you fail, you are being refined. You are being taught patience, endurance, humility, and courage, the traits required for real success. The ones who win big are those who have failed deeply, but refuse to let it define them. They have faced rejection and used it as redirection. They have fallen short and turned it into motivation. Failure taught them where to aim, but consistency gave them the strength to keep aiming. You will never meet someone truly successful who has not been shaped by failure. They may not talk about it, but their calm confidence comes from battles fought and lessons learned in moments of defeat. Inconsistency destroys that process because it breeds doubt. When you start and stop, when you commit and quit, you tell your mind that your dreams cannot be trusted. You train yourself to give up at the first sign of struggle. Each time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your belief in your own word. But every time you follow through, even when you fail, you build trust with yourself. You show your mind that you can be relied upon, that you are someone who doesn't stop at failure but grows through it. Confidence is not built from perfection, it is built from persistence. Failure brings clarity, but inconsistency creates confusion. When you stick with something long enough, even through mistakes, you begin to understand it. You see patterns. You find solutions. You adapt. But when you quit halfway, you never give yourself the chance to see what could have worked. You keep restarting from the beginning, wondering why progress never comes. The truth is, you were never too far from success. You just stopped too soon. Every person who has achieved something remarkable had moments when quitting felt easier. What separated them from everyone else was one simple choice: to keep going. Failure also humbles you. It teaches you compassion and perspective. It reminds you that growth is not a straight line and that strength is built through struggle. It strips away ego and reveals truth. The pain of failure is temporary, but the wisdom it leaves is lasting. The sting fades, but the lesson remains. Inconsistency, however, leaves you with regret. It is the silent weight you carry when you know you could have gone further if only you had stayed the course. The pain of discipline is far lighter than the pain of regret, and consistency is the bridge between them. It is easy to chase perfection and run from mistakes, but life will never reward you for avoiding failure. It rewards those who face it, learn from it, and continue forward. Every failure carries the seed of equal or greater success, but you must nurture that seed through consistent effort. You cannot water it once and expect it to bloom. You must return to it daily, even when it looks like nothing is happening. The roots of progress grow in silence, and consistency is the only way to feed them. So when you fail, and you will, do not retreat. Do not label yourself as defeated. Take the lesson, adjust the path, and move forward again, because failure is not final until you stop trying. The moment you rise after falling, you have already won something far greater than success. You have conquered yourself. And once you do that, no failure can ever break you again. What destroys most people is not the fall, but their refusal to stand back up. Keep standing, keep trying, keep being consistent. Because failure is never your enemy, inconsistency is. Discipline creates momentum, not perfection. Most people wait for motivation to arrive before they act, but motivation is fickle. It comes and goes like a breeze. Discipline is different. It is the quiet force that keeps you moving when inspiration disappears. It is the decision to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. It is the strength to repeat the same small actions day after day, trusting that one day they will add up to something greater. Perfection is an illusion that keeps you stuck, waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect moment, the perfect version of yourself. Discipline asks you to begin anyway, imperfectly, right now, because progress only starts when you do. Momentum is built not through grand gestures, but through consistency. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you add fuel to the fire of progress. At first, it feels slow, like pushing a heavy wheel uphill. You struggle to get started, to move even an inch. But as you keep showing up, the resistance lessens. Each disciplined act adds weight to your momentum until one day the wheel starts to move on its own. You wake up, and what once felt like a struggle becomes a rhythm. The effort becomes part of who you are. That is the gift of discipline. It transforms effort into identity. Perfection cannot do that, because perfection is about appearance. Discipline is about transformation. Perfection asks, is this good enough? Discipline says, keep going. The person chasing perfection is always stopping to measure, to adjust, to criticize, while the disciplined one keeps moving forward. And because they keep moving, they improve naturally. Action itself becomes the teacher. The disciplined person understands that flaws are part of the process. They know that every mistake carries a lesson that no textbook could ever teach. The one seeking perfection waits to begin until everything feels certain, and so they never begin at all. The one practicing discipline starts messy, stumbles, learns, adjusts, and becomes unstoppable. When you rely on discipline, you no longer depend on emotion. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop letting fear decide when you act. You simply show up, regardless of how you feel. That is where momentum is born. Every time you push through resistance, you strengthen a muscle deep inside you, a muscle that tells you, I can do this even when it's hard. That muscle grows stronger with every repetition. And soon, what once required effort becomes second nature. The more you do something, the less energy it takes. That is why discipline is freedom disguised as effort. It makes the hard things easier over time. Discipline builds trust within yourself. When you keep promises to yourself, you begin to believe in your own word. Each time you say, I will do it, and you actually do, you strengthen your self-respect. And when you trust yourself, your confidence grows unshakable. You no longer depend on others to validate your progress, because you have proof inside you that you can follow through. Perfection never builds this kind of trust. Perfection makes you question yourself endlessly because it is never satisfied. No matter how well you perform, it always whispers, not enough. But discipline tells you, keep going, you're growing. There will be days when you feel like quitting. Days when results seem invisible, when effort feels meaningless. Those are the moments that separate dreamers from doers. The disciplined one keeps moving anyway, even when there is no applause, no recognition, no visible progress, because they understand that the act itself has value. Discipline doesn't promise immediate reward, it promises growth. Every day you show up, even when you don't see change, something within you is shifting. You are becoming stronger, more resilient, more focused. You may not see the transformation as it happens, but one day you'll look back and realize how far you've come simply because you refused to stop. Momentum built through discipline is like a river. It starts as a trickle, then gathers strength until it becomes unstoppable. Each disciplined act is a drop of water, small on its own, but together they form something powerful. Once that current forms, it carries you forward. The first few days of effort are the hardest because you are working against stillness. You are breaking old habits, fighting laziness, pushing through excuses. But once you build momentum, it starts working for you. Your habits begin to support your goals. Your routine becomes your ally. Discipline turns struggle into flow. The pursuit of perfection, on the other hand, is a trap that keeps you standing still. It convinces you that the smallest flaw means failure, that unless everything is flawless, nothing is worth doing. It paralyzes you with fear of judgment and fear of not being enough. But the truth is, no one ever reaches perfection. They only reach progress, and progress only belongs to those who act. The world does not reward the perfect idea left unfinished. It rewards the imperfect effort done consistently. Discipline allows you to fail forward, to stumble and still move ahead. It turns imperfection into momentum. Discipline is a choice made in silence. No one sees you waking up early, practicing when you're tired, or working when it would be easier to rest. But that is where greatness is born, in those invisible moments of commitment. When others are waiting for the right moment, you are creating it. When others are seeking comfort, you are building endurance. The disciplined person does not chase comfort because they understand that comfort is temporary, but growth lasts. Every time you choose the harder path, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more. And once you taste that power, you stop chasing perfection because you realize that consistency itself is the highest form of excellence. The truth is, perfection ends growth. Once you think you've reached the top, there's nowhere left to go. Discipline, however, keeps you climbing. It reminds you that there's always more to learn, always another step to take. It turns life into a continuous process of evolution. And when you live that way, you stop fearing failure because you see it as part of the climb. The disciplined heart knows that success is not a destination. It is the rhythm of effort repeated faithfully over time. And in that rhythm, life begins to align itself with you. Perfection is rigid, discipline is alive. Perfection traps you in self-doubt, but discipline gives you strength to move through it. Perfection focuses on results, discipline focuses on action. And it is action, not intention, that creates change. So if you want momentum in your life, stop waiting to be perfect. Begin today with what you have exactly as you are. Do it badly if you must, but do it. Because once discipline takes root in your soul, it will carry you further than perfection ever could. And when you look back years from now, you won't remember how perfect you were. You'll remember how powerful it felt to keep going, even when you didn't feel ready. Consistency builds confidence. Every time you show up, even when you don't feel ready, even when no one is watching, you tell yourself a silent truth, that you can be relied upon. Each small act of consistency becomes a whisper in your mind saying, I am capable, I am strong, I can do this. Confidence is not something that arrives fully formed. It is built layer by layer through the small promises you keep to yourself. You don't wake up confident. You become confident by proving to yourself that you can endure, that you can persist, that you can grow. The world tells you that confidence comes from achievement, but that's not true. It comes from consistency. Achievement is the outcome, but consistency is the root. Without it, confidence has no ground to stand on. Each time you take action, no matter how small, you reinforce a belief inside you that you have control over your life. It doesn't matter if your effort feels insignificant. What matters is that you acted. Confidence doesn't bloom from perfection, it blooms from persistence. When you repeatedly show up despite fear, hesitation, or uncertainty, you teach your mind that you are not ruled by emotion but guided by discipline. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. That trust is the essence of real confidence. Not arrogance, not pride, but quiet, steady self-belief born from effort repeated faithfully. When you are consistent, you become your own evidence. You no longer need validation from others because you have seen what you can do through your own eyes. Each repetition, each step forward becomes proof. You remember the times you wanted to quit but didn't. You recall the nights you kept going when comfort called your name. Those moments stay with you, and they speak louder than any external praise ever could. That is how confidence grows, from experience, not from words, from doing, not from dreaming. The person who keeps moving through doubt eventually becomes unshakable because they've built their certainty one action at a time. Confidence is not built on success alone. In fact, it's often built in failure. When you fail but still return to the task, when you stumble but stand up again, you develop a strength that perfection cannot offer. Each time you fall and rise, your faith in yourself deepens. You start to see that your worth is not tied to a single outcome, but to your ability to continue. You stop fearing mistakes because you know you can recover from them. The consistent person no longer looks for guarantees of success. They create their own sense of security through repetition. They understand that failure doesn't destroy confidence. Inconsistency does. Consistency turns self-doubt into self-trust. When you first begin something, your mind will resist. It will tell you you're not good enough, not ready, not worthy. But every time you take action anyway, you weaken that voice. You prove it wrong. Slowly, it becomes quieter. Eventually, it disappears, replaced by a new voice that says, I can handle this. The transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens through days of effort, through countless small victories, through the daily choice to keep going. Confidence is built in the moments when no one is clapping, when no one is cheering, when only you know how hard it is to keep going, and you do it anyway. The reason consistency builds confidence is because it creates familiarity. What once felt intimidating begins to feel natural. The task that used to make your heart race becomes part of your rhythm. Every time you repeat an action, you remove a bit of the fear attached to it. It becomes less of a threat and more of a routine. Fear feeds on uncertainty, but consistency starves it. The more you practice, the more comfortable you become, and that comfort evolves into confidence. You start to move with ease, not because the task got easier, but because you grew stronger. That's what repetition does. It trains not only your body, but your mind to see challenges differently. Confidence built through consistency is the kind that cannot be faked. It's not loud or boastful. It's quiet, calm, and deeply rooted. It doesn't depend on applause or approval. It's the steady assurance that no matter what comes, you can face it because you've faced it before. You've built resilience through repetition, and that makes you untouchable. The person who relies on perfection for confidence is fragile because their sense of worth shatters the moment they fail. But the person who relies on consistency becomes unstoppable because they've learned how to rise. Inconsistency, on the other hand, destroys confidence. Every time you start and stop, you send a message to your mind that you cannot be trusted to follow through. Every broken promise to yourself erodes your self-belief. It's not the world's doubt that hurts the most. It's your own. But when you stay consistent, when you push through laziness, distraction, or doubt, you rebuild that inner trust. You create a record of reliability. You no longer question if you can. You know you can because you've done it before. That's why consistent people move with calm assurance. They don't have to convince themselves. Their habits already have. Consistency doesn't require perfection. It requires effort. It's about showing up even when it's inconvenient, about doing your best even when it's not your best day. Some days you will move fast. Some days you'll barely crawl, but what matters is that you don't stop. Every day you continue, you stack another brick of confidence. Over time, those bricks build an unbreakable foundation. Confidence is not an explosion, it's an accumulation. It's built slowly, steadily, quietly, until one day you realize that you've become the person you once envied, simply because you didn't give up. You don't need to be the smartest, the fastest, or the most talented to be confident. You just need to be consistent. Because consistency teaches you that you can rely on yourself, and that self-reliance is the deepest form of confidence. When life tests you, you won't crumble because you've already proven your strength to yourself. Every moment of discipline, every act of persistence, every repetition has been preparing you for that moment. The world may doubt you, but you will not doubt yourself. You'll walk forward not because you're certain of success, but because you're certain of your ability to keep trying. That's real confidence, not built on outcomes, but on effort. Not dependent on perfection, but powered by persistence. It's the kind of confidence that no one can give you, and no one can take away, because you built it with your own hands, one consistent step at a time. Perfection seeks approval, consistency seeks growth. There is a deep difference between wanting to look successful and wanting to become successful. One comes from the hunger for validation, the other from the desire for transformation. The person who chases perfection is often chasing applause, wanting others to see them as flawless. They shape their actions not for growth but for acceptance. Every mistake feels like a threat. Every imperfection feels like failure, because their worth depends on how others see them. But the one who embraces consistency does not seek to impress, they seek to improve. They understand that true growth happens behind closed doors, away from the eyes of others, in the quiet persistence of effort repeated every day. The perfectionist fears mistakes, but the consistent person learns from them. Perfection demands control over every outcome, every detail, every perception, and yet, life never gives that control. Life is unpredictable, messy, and full of lessons hidden in failure. The perfectionist resists this truth, fighting to maintain an image of flawlessness, and in doing so, they exhaust themselves. They spend their energy hiding their flaws instead of healing them, polishing the surface instead of strengthening the foundation. The consistent person, however, does not hide from imperfection. They face it. They use each flaw as feedback, each misstep as a teacher. They know that growth comes not from being right, but from being real. When you seek approval, you hand your power to others. You let their opinions decide how you feel about yourself. You become a prisoner of praise, motivated only when others are watching, discouraged the moment they look away. Perfectionists often achieve on the outside, but feel empty on the inside because their sense of worth is built on shifting ground. Approval is temporary, the applause fades, but the satisfaction that comes from growth lasts. The consistent person knows this. They work for the inner reward, the quiet pride that comes from progress, the peace that comes from knowing they're better today than they were yesterday. Consistency is a conversation with yourself, not a performance for others. It is not about showing the world how perfect you are, but about proving to yourself that you can keep going. When you choose consistency, you stop comparing. You stop chasing someone else's timeline, someone else's version of success. You learn to measure yourself only against your own potential. That shift is where real freedom begins. The perfectionist is trapped in a race with everyone else, but the consistent one walks their own path. They move slower at times, yes, but their steps are steady, sure, and sustainable. The irony of perfection is that it prevents growth. When you strive to be flawless, you avoid risks that might expose your weaknesses. You stick to what feels safe, what makes you look good, and in doing so, you stop evolving. You live in fear of being seen as less than perfect, and fear is the enemy of progress. But consistency is fearless in its humility. It says, I am not there yet, but I will keep going. It allows you to take chances, to experiment, to fall short, because you know that each attempt moves you closer to mastery. Growth requires mistakes. It requires awkward beginnings and uncertain steps. Consistency gives you the courage to take them. The perfectionist is obsessed with the outcome. The consistent person is devoted to the process. When you focus on the process, you fall in love with the doing rather than the result. You stop asking, when will I get there? And start asking, how can I grow through this? That shift changes everything. The work itself becomes your teacher, your guide. Each day you show up, you refine your skill, strengthen your will, and deepen your understanding. Progress stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like purpose. That's what consistency does. It replaces anxiety with direction. Approval is fragile because it depends on something you cannot control, other people's opinions. Growth is unshakable because it depends on something you can, your own effort. When your happiness is tied to approval, you are at the mercy of others. When it's tied to growth, you are free. The consistent person knows that improvement is its own reward. They do not need constant recognition because their validation comes from within. They feel proud not because someone noticed their effort, but because they stayed true to their word. Every day they honor their commitment. They build a kind of quiet confidence that no praise can give. Perfection whispers, "Be flawless or you are nothing." Consistency whispers, "Be faithful and you will become something." One leads to anxiety, the other to peace. The perfectionist lives in constant tension, chasing a moving target that never stands still. Even when they achieve something remarkable, they immediately see what's missing. Their satisfaction is fleeting because perfection has no finish line. Consistency, on the other hand, teaches contentment. It allows you to celebrate small victories, to appreciate progress while still striving for more. You begin to enjoy the journey instead of resenting it. You find fulfillment not in reaching the top, but in the climb itself. Perfection is fueled by fear. The fear of judgment, the fear of failure, the fear of being seen as less. Consistency is fueled by love, love for the work, love for the process, love for the possibility of becoming more. When you work from fear, you're trying to prove something to the world. When you work from love, you're trying to build something within yourself. That is why the consistent person grows while the perfectionist stays stuck. Love inspires continuation, fear demands control. And control, in a world that changes by the second, will always leave you broken. The truth is, no one remembers who was perfect. People remember who kept going. They remember the ones who stumbled and got up again, who didn't need to shine all the time to make an impact. The strongest people you know are not perfect. They are consistent. They are the ones who showed up on hard days, who kept their word, who built their lives brick by brick, mistake by mistake, lesson by lesson. Their strength comes from patience, not performance. So if you ever find yourself trapped in the chase for perfection, step back and remember this. Perfection is an illusion that keeps you standing still, but consistency is the truth that moves you forward. You will never be flawless, but you can always be faithful. You will never control how others see you, but you can always control how you grow. And when you live that way, something incredible happens. The approval you once chased starts to follow you naturally, not because you pretended to be perfect, but because you had the courage to be consistent.